Twins take 2 of 3 from the defending champions, but you haven't heard from us in a while. And there's a good reason for that. We'll talk about that here today. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. It's been a week since we've last spoken, and I will break down why that is. But before we get to that, I'm your host, Brandon Warren, and you can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. Thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, and of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. And in my haste, I forgot to introduce that Mr. Dave Brown is with me at Answer Dave Brown.
Well, I thought you were getting to it eventually. That's fine. There's no haste necessary. Post haste, pre haste, toothpaste.
Haste makes waste, and waste makes paste, or something like that. So if you're hanging out with us instead of the Wolves game, I definitely do appreciate it. And again, we love when you're active in the comments. I'll do my best to hang out in the comments section, guys. We haven't spoken in a week, and I'm not sure how to really do this, but the biggest Twins fan I know was my brother Cody. And I say was because last Saturday at about 11 p.m., he had a heart attack and passed away. I got a call that morning, that night. I was asleep, and I answered made a call the next morning. I don't usually hear from my mom that much, and so it was surprising to say the least. But my brother, if you're unaware, was a quadriplegic. About 30 years ago, we were in a car accident, and he had his spinal cord severed by the accident. And in fact, in reminiscing with my mom over the week when they were here, kind of clearing out his personal effects that surround me in my office right now, things I'm going through, things I'm trying to process as part of the grieving process. My mom said the day that we were in our accident, and I was life flighted out of there, he was life flighted out of there, our little brother was life flighted out of there, that the doctors called and said, "We've never seen a 6-year-old with injuries this grave survive." There happened to be, I think, the story is hazy for me. I was 8 years old when it happened, and I was asleep and then unconscious. So God, thank you for not giving me any visual reminders of that day. All of my wounds are body wounds, not mental wounds to that extent. But there was, I believe, an off-duty EMT in one of the cars involved in the accident who gave him mouth-to-mouth and stabilized him and kept him alive. And for 30 years, a lot of different means kept him alive. We nearly lost him many times in those 30 years. And if you're here for Twins baseball, I promise you we'll get to that in segments 2 and 3. I want you to know that I take your team everyday thing very seriously, and I would not have been away for as long as I was if it wasn't something severe, something serious. And so, so we got 30 years. In fact, in July, not quite 2 months from the day he passed, would have been 30 years since our accident. He was 6.5 years old when he was injured, 36 when he passed away. And I'll be traveling this week, giving the eulogy. So again, mentally, this will help me prepare for that. I haven't started any preparations. I did write the obituary, and that was difficult. I'm going to be honest with you. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But I will have to take a bit of a step back. We'll be having Dave drive some of the episodes while I'm traveling, but I'll be on, or at the very least producing. But I want you to know that I also felt like I couldn't give you the show that you all deserve over the last week, because I watched the National Series. I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened. It was more a coping mechanism. It was more something to bring me out of the fog of this great loss. And I could not dedicate the time and energy to give you the show that you as fans deserve. So there's still a lot going on. We'll have the funeral service on Friday in our hometown of Roseau, Minnesota. We have services down here on Wednesday night and a prayer service on Thursday. If you're in the Twin Cities and want to come, by all means, please feel free to reach out, because it's like a satellite service in St. Paul. That's where Cody lived, and he's got a lot of friends down here that care about him a lot. And I know that I care about a lot of you in the same way that you care about me, either through the show, through Twitter, through just engaging over the years. So if you'd like to be present, please feel free to reach out. But it's still going to be a time of transition. I'm going to do my best to get back to this thing every day, and I think I'm going to be able to. But there was a period there where I wanted to come back and just felt like I could not give an effort commensurate with what is expected of this show. And so I don't know. He was a big Twins fan. I have now inherited, he was my younger brother, which you should never have to inherit anything from a younger sibling. It's just like when I think about my mom, you should never have to bury one of your babies. But again, we got 30 years of extra mileage out of this young man. And I mean, I don't know what else to say. I love you, Cody. I love you to the moon and back. And when I see you again someday, it's going to be the best day ever. And I'm going to be watching every game with you. You're going to have the best seat in the house, and hopefully they can finally win one, because when they won the World Series, Cody was born in 87. He was born 2 months after they won in 87. So he was alive, but we were not fans yet in 91. In fact, our grandma, who passed away in 1996, kind of instilled this love for us in baseball. We started watching it in her kitchen in 1993. And so we started mimicking that. We lived in a trailer court because we had no money. And so we played where our house to the other house, if you hit it over the trailer, was a home run. And Cody, before he was injured, he was a little kid, 6.5 by definition, young anyway, or little anyway. We'd pretend to be our favorite players. And since he was a righty and didn't really have much power, it was funny, but he pretended to be Pat Mears. We even had one of those old helmets that kind of like Dave Winfield wore, where it didn't have the ear flaps. And we even took tape out and taped the number 2 on the brim. That's how important baseball was to him from a very young age. And that never changed. His physical abilities were taken from him on a very terrible day in 1994, but his cognitive abilities remained. He was a fierce Twins fan, loved the Timberwolves, loved the Wild. For some reason, the Green Bay Packers too. You know what? I can't begrudge him for that. He was a man of his own, and I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him a lot. I already miss him a lot. But I need to get back to doing what I do best, and I think that's talking about the Minnesota Twins with you. And so we're going to talk about the Rangers series, Twins taking 2 of 3. The first series I've really been able to kind of focus on since pretty much exactly a week ago. In fact, the Timberwolves winning Game 7 of their series last Sunday was quite a respite. And again, if you're hanging out with us instead of watching the Timberwolves game, or as you're watching the Timberwolves game, I greatly thank you, because from the bottom of my heart, this is important to me. And so with that said, again, we're going to move on to Twins baseball. We're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll talk about the Rangers. We'll talk about the Royals coming up. We'll talk about Brooks Lee, because I think I might see a path for him getting to the big leagues in a fairly quick fashion. But again, first, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Our friends at Policygenius would like you to know that Boy, isn't this apt? Life insurance is an important safety net for your family, and finding the right policy can be time-consuming and overwhelming. See, when you're dealing with loss, it's funny how these things crop up. My kids turned on the TV the other day and picked out Winnie the Pooh. They've never picked that out. That was my brother's favorite cartoon when he was a kid. And so it's funny, and life insurance kind of brings that full circle. And with Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. If you have life insurance, like I do, it's very, very important, not for you, but for the people who are going to be left behind, whether it's family or your, different parts of your family. There's a lot of things to tie up in terms of loose ends. There's a lot of things to cover in terms of income gaps and that sort of thing. So life insurance, it's a must. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Your work policy, so if you have a work policy, check that out, because it might not cover as much as you think it does. Or it may not come with you if you switch jobs. So again, you may need extra coverage or more coverage, bonus coverage, whatever you may need. Policygenius is here to help. They give you unbiased advice from licensed experts on their support team who have no incentive to recommend one insurer or the other, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot tell you that they are the most trusted ally in life insurance today. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. And our friends over at LinkedIn are also, sorry, not LinkedIn, excuse me. I misspoke. It's Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance is a sponsor of this show. LinkedIn will be in our next break, so hold your horses there. But I've been using Yahoo Finance, and I highly, highly recommend that you do too. Let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising cost of inflation, or paying off your debt, your mortgage, anything standing in the way of you and financial freedom, right? With Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help reach that financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you're just looking for some extra guidance or you're just getting started, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They're the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and much, much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. So for comprehensive financial news, analysis, and insight, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. That's the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. And now I just realized I used the wrong tag on the bottom of the screen. So maybe we'll give Yahoo Finance some love in the final segment when we're talking about LinkedIn. But Dave, Twins take 2 of 3 from the Rangers. Initial thoughts on my side. I was a little disappointed that they didn't get to Jose Urena or was it Yerson Garabito in his major league debut today. I felt like the pitching matchups should have been ripe for the Twins offense to really swing it. We'll talk about Michael Lorenzen as well. But I just felt like even still, they took 2 of 3. It's the defending World Series champions, and I still feel a little bit meh.
Well, the Rangers were coming off getting swept themselves. So they were in a situation where, they're probably trying to stop the bleeding as much as possible. When you still manage to take the first couple games of the series, thank you, Alex Kirilloff, basically, for hitting a home run, kind of coming out of nowhere, because he hadn't really been – he had home runs in consecutive games. And, they didn't certainly dominate getting the first 2 games, and you'd think with Pablo Lopez going in the finale against rookie and a bullpen that things would be in the Twins' favor. But, they're still struggling. It's, they're 28-24, I believe. I think that's their record.
That's correct.
The Guardians don't ever lose. They're
9 straight.
Like 30. Yeah, they're 36-17. So it's going to take another 12-game winning streak for the Twins to kind of get back in the race as far as first place goes. But they're still ahead in the wild card. It's there are enough teams in the wild card race that the Twins aren't really in danger of missing the playoffs or anything like that. And we are only at the end of May, but the season is not going as well as everybody had hoped. And the offense has been super inconsistent, and they've been missing some parts, and maybe we'll get some good news about guys from the injured list in the minor leagues coming in soon. But the offense still hasn't really been there all year. And Pablo has not been getting the same kind of results. You look to reasons why, and his sweeper has not been what it was last year. Although there's some indication that that's even some bad luck on his part too. It's not the spin isn't all that different, and the velocity isn't different. He must be just getting the ball in some bad spots. So it's not a perfect product, and to come away with the AL Central title is going to take a Herculean 3/4 of the season and some stumbling by the Guardians, but it's still possible for them to do that. But they're just overall they haven't been as good as we hoped they would be.
Twins in the series hit 222 with a 343 on base and a 356 slugging percentage, a touching tribute to Jamie Carroll. But the team without Alex Kirilloff, who hit the team's only 2 home runs in the series, hit 207, 333 on base, 280 slugging. So not great. 16 walks, but 17 strikeouts. Again, what I think is happening with this offense is they're just not driving the pitches in if the count isn't what they consider prime for them to swing, they're taking or not really doing anything with drivable pitches. And I hesitate to say that it's any sort of organizational policy or thing, because every hitter's different, but I don't know. It's just so uncanny how this group can go up and down on this roller coaster, seemingly in lockstep.
Yeah, it's tough when you have multiple hitters slumping at the same time, and that's not really a formula for sustained success. And Ryan Jeffers isn't as hot as he was at the beginning of the season. Jose Miranda's been decent, and Kepler's been solid. But they really, Edouard Julien has been struggling for basically a month now. He hasn't been getting on base. He hasn't been hitting extra base hits. That's gone on longer than I thought it would, for sure. And Carlos Correa's been there. He's been, kind of a savior from time to time offensively with big hits. But there's too many guys who aren't hitting. Buxton hasn't been there for a lot of the time, and hasn't been able to hit that well when he has been in the lineup. So, hopefully the next wave is going to be, I don't know what keys that Popkins turned last year when they started to hit, but it would be a good time for another wave like that, whatever happened last year when the Twins were able to kind of get going as a team and score some runs. It's time for that to happen again. It's overdue.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I have some Edouard Julien angst to get out, and we'll talk about, maybe look at a couple small news and notes, and then the Royals will be in town, your local boys. So we'll break down all of that and whatever else we can get to in the next 10 minutes or so. But first, quick break. All right, our friends at LinkedIn want to know if you're struggling to close deals and that B2B is selling is tougher than ever, we want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals, such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with people who matter. So right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial. It's basically 2 months at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon. You get a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon to get started. All right, Dave, we're coming down the home stretch here. Yeah, Edouard Julien, question if he'll ever rule again. Hitting 069 in his last 10 games, 100 on base, 103 slugging. Am I wrong to be immensely frustrated with how often he strikes out looking? Because I'm less critical of looking strikeouts. There are people who are like, you got to protect the plate when a pitch is 4 inches off the plate and gets called a strike. I'm not really prone to that. I get that. You can't do anything with that pitch. You look like a fool if you swing at it, and this, that, and the other thing. I am positively baffled at his plate approach the last month with what he's trying to do at all. Am I wrong?
Well, I think he's a guy that's inside his own head, and his own process is to look for and try and swing only at strikes. And I just don't know that he's picking up the spin, or he's just kind of in between, doesn't know, really which pitch to look for. But, there's the thing about Julien's approach is, yeah, you don't want to go for those pitches that are way out of the zone, either away or inside, or high or low. You want to swing at strikes. But if you are up there swinging at pitches that maybe are close to being strikes, you can still do damage. You don't have to necessarily get a pitch that's center cut in exactly the spot you want to do damage with it. And when you are getting called for strike 3 without swinging the bat, as much as he is, you are, that's way too in the other, in a, I don't know if I call it passive, but it's just, that's not good either. I mean, that's not going to get you anywhere. That doesn't mean that he has to trash his approach, but if he thinks a pitch is close, he probably should be swinging at it at this point, because he's probably going to get called out if he doesn't. You mentioned the last 10 games, but if you go back a month, I don't have the exact stats, but since the last week in April, his slugging percentage is about the same as his batting average, and
not great.
It's not productive enough. So, you've got him. He probably could use a reset at St. Paul. I think it's been long enough. Royce Lewis is on the verge, if he doesn't, pull a hamstring trying to steal a base in his second rehab game.
First.
Right. Well, I mean, he didn't. So I'm just saying. Oh,
okay, yeah. So
the next, hopefully he'll stop doing that. He tried to steal a base.
Subsequent games, yeah.
Lavelle said that the Twins were not aghast, but something like that.
Horrified.
Yes, horrified.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds maybe a little hyperbolic, but then again, it just that we remember from the time that he got hurt, he said, he even acknowledged, I'm the kind of guy that kind of wants to play now. And even though I'm not supposed to do that, sometimes I sort of do things that aren't necessarily the brightest in the world, if out of enthusiasm. You think that maybe the Twins could have had just one more conversation with him about stealing bases, even though it seems like, to me, I wouldn't try and steal either. I'm not that I was ever kind of a speed demon on a baseball field, but I'd try and take it easy there. So those are two guys, that's that could be a switch out there. Kyle Farmer still isn't really doing anything. Brooks Lee is starting to hit in the minor leagues. His back appears to be healthier, and he's had some extra base hits on his rehab assignment. I don't know how much longer he has to go, maybe a week or two before they would feel comfortable bringing him up. There are options that the Twins have to switch out some of these guys who are not doing well, or just get an infusion of bats into the lineup. So they can't keep going to Margot forever and ever. He's been better than he was, but we're not talking about a turnaround at the plate like Santana had, where he was clearly driving the ball and he was this close, and then hitting a bunch of home runs. That hasn't appeared yet on the horizon. So there's lots of changes afoot, I suspect, no matter how this week goes. I think when you look at the longer arc of how the Twins are doing over the past month, it's pretty clear that some changes need to be made, and there are people that they could bring up to execute those changes.
There's some pretty dreadful numbers in Julien's profile. I'm going to share them with you here. He has 31 hits this year. 25 of them have come off fastballs. He's hitting .281 with a .562 slugging percentage against fastballs. All 7 of his home runs have come against fastballs. He is hitting .089 against breaking balls with a .133 slugging percentage. He's hitting .091 with a .091 slugging percentage against off-speed pitches. Now, I don't know that I really have to spell it out, but that's pretty crappy, Dave.
Well, it's not my fault, Brandon.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know how – I'm not sure how much longer Lee would need, because he got hurt toward the end of spring training, I think. So he's right. It's not I'm not sure if is it a similar situation to Royce Lewis in terms of how much
back versus quad, guy who has played versus who hasn't in the big leagues. The other thing, though, when they DFA'd Jackson, and he stayed in the organization, actually. He accepted the assignment.
Jay Jackson cleared.
Actually, I don't even know if he had the option to or not, because he didn't have service time, and I don't think he's been DFA'd before. So while someone said he accepted the assignment, I'm not certain he even had to. I don't think he could. But it
could have been a condition of his contract too.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So I don't know, but I believe with the DFA they have an open 40-man spot that they could use for Brooks Lee. And I also have a hard time sending down Jose Miranda for Royce Lewis. Miranda could DH. They've had not really a consistent DH. Trevor Larnach is not hitting like he should. You could send him out. You can send Julien out. It's the issue is there's a lot more candidates than you would really hope for at this point in the season, where you're like, you could send that guy out and it makes sense.
That's the down. That is the bad side. And they're from the beginning of the season, people have kind of complained about the guys who weren't hitting, and I thought it was all premature, and maybe it was, but
it can still be premature, but correct. Like, I think people don't make that connection or that distinction. And if you choose something negative and it stays negative, you shouldn't really pat yourself on the back, because sports are inherently negative.
Right. But Farmer isn't really doing anything. Margot isn't really doing anything. I think it would be, Royce Lewis is coming back, but you could also put Miranda over at first base for some at bats.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame he can't play second base.
I don't think Miranda can play second base.
I think he did a little in the minors, just a very, very, very little. But
I don't think you want to do that, though. I mean,
no, of course not. I'm not saying you would.
Yeah. No, he's a first, third guy.
Yeah.
Possible DH sort of thing. But and Lee could play set. Yeah. So I mean, there's moves to be. I know this is guys' livelihoods, but maybe careers. Margot's still not even 30 years old, but he seems. I don't know if he's cooked, but the microwave has been going for a while. So I think he's not what they had hoped for. And I don't know that Farmer really has it anymore. He's in his early, 33 or so 34 maybe. So it might be time there as well. And the overall, I think that the pitching has been okay. It hasn't been great, but Pablo Lopez needs to figure out his sweeper and to kind of switch it on too, and switch his game on too, sort of like last year. Last year at the beginning, I don't know if he was struggling this late into May last year, but I think I'm concerned about Pablo Lopez, but I don't think it's anything that isn't fixable. If you look at his velocity, if you look at his spin rates, they're similar.
Today.
What's that?
He touched 96 on a strikeout today.
Yeah, and his average, it was right about where it should be. So it's not that. It's location and some fine tuning.
Maybe he's tipping a little bit.
You'd think that they would have fixed that.
Yeah.
If he was. So
especially if Paul Molitor's around.
Right. Should we get Molitor back on the coaching staff?
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking that might be a little awkward transition.
Yeah, but hey, anything for a victory. But
yeah, exactly. Well, hey, we will have a breakdown of the Royals series. I'll be traveling at some point this week, but we'll do our best to get you a show every single day. For Dave Brown, Mr. Brown, we're signing off saying thank you so much for hanging out with us on Locked On Twins. And thank you for giving me the time to share things going on in my life right now. Sometimes things are a little more important than baseball, and I hope people understand. But again, thanks for listening to Locked On Twins. I love you, Cody, and we'll see you tomorrow night.